All right, everybody, what is going on? It is Peter here with GoodyReader.com, and this is the weekly live showcase. We do this every single week at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. What do we have here today? We have something truly amazing that doesn't sound amazing unless it gets absolutely over explained to the point of like, why did they even do that? Hello, my mom. Hello, Simon Gordon. Now, this is the Sony DPT-RP2. Now, you might be wondering, well, why is it a Sony and it's not by Sony? And this is a very convoluted approach. I don't know why they did that, but it is. So let's check out what happened right now. So this is the unit right here, we'll call it. Here it is. It's got the little circle up top. It's got a stylus on the side. Now, this is the readmoo. This is called the readmoo Pro, but it's actually the Sony RP2. But why is it Sony? So over here, oh yeah, I'll have to show you guys that because you know what? This is a very big area that we need to write. Yeah, the thing is about this is that there's it's a big screen real estate. If you don't know, it is a 13.3. So I'll write right here. So this is the Sony RP Deuce. Okay, but it's also, but that's in parentheses. It's actually the readmoo, and here it is. Hey, Steven. Hello, Nicholas Pinotti. The usuals are here. Here's the unit right there. There's the stylus. All right, how did we get to this being a Sony? In 2017, and unless you guys ask any question about this, I'm going to explain this because it's kind of important. In 2017, a JV was formed, a joint venture between E-Ink Taiwan and Sony Japan. More specifically, the branch that handles this was Sony Semiconductors. Let's go a smaller screen, line there. Semiconductors Japan. Now what they did is they formed this alliance and they started making units. Now, they've been trying to make this unit for quite some time. We saw this in 2021, 2022, and again now in 2023. We saw this unit right here, but no one's picked it up yet. Remember that Sony, during the time they made the DPT RP1 and the CP1, they were slowly closing down a lot of their European branches, the East Coast and West Coast USA branches, and they are kind of gravitating all of the people from the Sony Reader Store over to Kobo. Although in Japan and the world, you can still access the Sony Reader Store and pay with credit card and stuff like that. So you might be saying, okay, well, there's one more jump to get to here because it doesn't say Sony. Yes, this is Linfini, the guys that actually make the shells that you can buy from the factory. And they make the pens you can buy from the factory. They said, oh, we'll build it. We have some shells, and in 2022 we showed you guys, if you go to our YouTube channel, we showed you the Linfini shells. So Sony said, well, we want to release an RP2, but we can't really go back to 2017 when we had the RP1 and release the Sony DPT-RP2 because it's been so long. We've been completely out of the e-paper game for, what is it, going on 6 years now. Even though they still sell the RP1 under the Sony name. So they said, okay, well, we need somebody, we need a company to sell this through. Fujitsu is already over here with the Quaderno. But they're already dealing with Linfini to buy the Quaderno stuff. So Linfini said, all right, let's release it through readmoo. Readmoo is a Taiwanese company. And they released the unit. That wasn't too complicated. Look at the roadmap. Look at the level of look at the level of explanation that is required to break down why this is a Sony. It is absolutely insane. If you look at our, it's crazy, man. I kind of knew a little bit of this, and then our script writers for the videos opened my eyes a little bit further. They did a little bit of a timestamp investigation and stuff like that, and then we all talked about it for the review that we're gonna do on the readmoo. And I was like, oh yeah, so. We're going to be telling a lot about that in the review in a more structured way. But man, look at the absolute the treasure map that was required to get it as to why Sony Semiconductors even had a hand in this unit. So there's the RP2 codename floating around, and readmoo has the retail packaging, but in the documentation, the little paper documentation in the box, it all says Sony Semiconductors, and it's just absolutely crazy. Yeah, Nicholas, man, like people were asking us, like, why is it a Sony? Why is it e-ink? What does Linfini have to do with it? Why is it on a readmoo? And that's just simply because there was a lot of attempts, remember. We'll skip over here for a second. I'm going to keep that page live just in case you guys need it. Recently, there were a lot of attempts. A4 by Dasung grabbed the Linfini shells. The Linfini unit. readmoo with direct influence from Sony. Grab that. Sony did not influence the A4. Fujitsu from Linfini only. Alteric Note from Linfini only. Sony Semiconductors Japan actually had a hand in the readmoo, but he did not touch the other ones. And there have been several releases of the 13.3 and the 10.3s from Linfini. Now there is one more. I touched something. What changed a second? Do you see that? Something up top changed. What is that? Oh, it's just gray. All right. That is undo. Oh, no, that's flip. How do you do undo? Oh, it's going all over the place now. Okay, let's bring it back to the top. And erase that. Okay, back to this. There's one more that Fujitsu's doing. I'm going to put it down here just because it's more fun. They have the Fujitsu Gen.3 color Kaleido 3 screen. That's going to be awesome, and that's well, obviously Fujitsu, but yeah. RP2, does the RP stand for something? I don't know, Cisco. They've been using the RP since the RP1 and the CP1. They've been using that since 2016 in Japan. I don't know what it stands for. Digital paper, DPT is digital paper something? Technology? Digital paper something. I'm not sure what it was. But yeah, they've been... Oh, we're out of batteries. No, we're low on batteries. And by the way, when we do the full review, everything will be in English. But yeah, you can see that Linfini has had its hand in quite a bit of cookie jars, but only Sony has kind of been gravitating towards readmoo in order to release their product. Now, I personally would have believed if Sony just called it the straight up on the box, this one is not real. So I'm going to do a dotted line. If they just called it the RP2 instead of codenaming it over to us, the RP2, and they released it as a Sony with a Sony logo, you know, with all the serifs, S-O, you know what I mean? They actually called it the Sony. That would have been a crazy way to market their unit that is instantly recognizable instead of this. This is too much. That's going on way too much to even figure out what it has to do with these guys. So unfortunately, when we reported on this, which I'm finally glad it's here, because we've had a lot of things we've reported on at trade shows that never panned out, but it's slowly transpiring. So I'm glad that when we saw the Linfini units at the 4th annual Government and Public Sector Week in Tokyo, Japan, which we actually just went to a trade show 2 days ago with the boys. I'm glad we actually saw this real, and I don't want to be rude, but unfortunately, the company to actually pick it up was readmoo. I only say unfortunately because readmoo's not a well-known brand. I mean, I would have said that even if Dasung picked this up with the Sony influence would have been better than readmoo, because no one knows readmoo. Nobody knows readmoo, and their things start out in Chinese. You got to change them to English. You gotta do a yeah, Steve Donahue drawing looks like you're planning a nuclear war. These guys start out in Chinese, Taiwanese, and then you have to change them into English and stuff like that. Now they did carry over the Sony back end here. This is very much the exact same thing, and we'll get into all this when we get into the review. But I must say, this is not readmoo's doing, but the Linfini shells have just had such a have had such a great writing feel from day one. This is and this isn't this isn't anything but just what it is. This is the #1 best writing feel of any e-paper device ever. There is nothing close to this. People would argue and say, "Oh, the Remarkable is the greatest." It's not. What do you call the iPad with a paper-like, or whatever you call those guys, the paper something, screen protector for $50 you see on your Facebook ads. It's not. This is the best. There is no better. As some people point out in the comments section, will your pen nibs wear down? Of course they will. This is like you're writing with an actual pencil. I mean, it's crazy. This feel is unmatched. You can almost see the flex in the screen, because this is a flexible screen as well. You get that pen that just reverberates through the body of the chassis of the pen. It's absolutely phenomenal, and nothing has emulated this. Is it the fastest experience in the market? No. Is it the most kind of widespread note-taking palette? No. But this is the greatest writing feel, hands down, and I'll take that to the bank. And obviously, as we said, the A4, the Quaderno, the Sony, they all share the same build, because it is all from Linfini. Those geniuses, those guys are crazy. Honestly, they made a top-notch product. Why wouldn't Sony simply do the branding as you mentioned? Well, Steve, as we said, because Sony sold the DPT-RP1 through 2017 and onward, and they're still selling it to this day. You can still buy it brand new. We are a Sony distributor, and we still sell them. DPT-RP1, CP1, the Smart Band Talk 2, the FezWatch, the FezWatch U, the HUIS Home Remote, all made in Japan. They still, the 350, the PRS 350, the T2, the T3, they're still selling everything. You know, people have had this idea that once they closed up shop in the USA, which is the #1 economy in the world, that Sony's done. They're not done. They've been going very steadily this entire time, just not in the continental US, or I guess US in general. I don't say continental because what is the difference between continental? I know mainland US excludes Alaska and Hawaii. What does continental US mean? I guess no, that does mean the mainland of North American continent. Anyways, USA. The United States market has kind of abandoned Sony as an e-paper player, but the rest of the world hasn't. Their units are still being sold, still being reviewed, still being updated. They're still being customized. You can still get Sony e-paper products. You can download the Reader Store on your phone. We did a video 8 months ago about how you can still download the Sony Reader Store. So they're alive. It's just they're not in spotlight anymore. They're not on the world stage when you look at, you know, the globe of it all. So Sony kind of felt like they couldn't, I'm assuming they couldn't really in 2023 say, okay, we got a new Sony device. I guess they just wanted to play more of an administrative role and take a back seat to it rather than, you know, make it themselves, I guess. I really don't know why they did it. Yeah, I would have loved to see a Sony branded product instead of just being reserved for a little bit of footer notes at the documentation inside the box. It was just a little weird. What are its specificities that make it stand out from other e-readers? You know what? Offhand, I don't remember, but it is significantly different than the RP1. If I pull up the RP1, the Sony DPT-RP1 was a proprietary pen with a micro USB. This one is a Wacom pen, thank God, with a USB-C. So let me pull that up, RP2, and look at, oh, you know what? Sony doesn't really like showing, what do you call, like hardware specs outside of just storage and stuff like that. They don't go like, oh, we have this much processor for the most part. Much like Amazon, they don't usually disclose that information. But the RP Deuce, this one, does have a card at 1250 e-paper display, which the RP1 did not. This one also has, I believe, yeah, quad-core processor, 2 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigs onboard storage. I don't believe the RP1 had that. I do not believe it had that at all. I'm trying to find a spec sheet, which we will go over in the full review, of course, which will be coming up once readmoo gets back to us and gives us an English patch, because right now it is just in Taiwanese and we can't really do it on that. Yeah, so, oh, geez, that's vastly different, guys. This has 128 gigs onboard storage. The RP1 only had 11 gigs onboard storage. So that is crazy different. Now, it's weird because the RP1 had 207 PPI. This has 206 PPI. Oh, how did you lose 1 point of pixel density? Really, that's kind of weird. And this one is using a 1250 Carter display, so it is way better for ghosting, way better for refresh. It's just much quicker. It's much more of a refined, put-together experience. I believe, is the battery different too? We got to go back to the page here. I wonder if the battery's different. You got 2,000 milliamp battery on both of these, I think. Yeah, we're looking at... oh, it actually doesn't say. Oh, and this is also heavier than the RP1. That's right, we did a scale test. Hey, Peter, how are you? What's the Gen 3 mean here? Does it mean... Oh, hold on, let me get here. Does it mean it's the same as the incoming Fujitsu Gen 4? Correct, yes. So, back to the drawing board, guys. So, the DPT has 3 gens. DPT. This is the RP1, RP Deuce, S1. So this is what, 2013, 14? This is 2016, 17, depending on the market, and this is 2023. Unfortunately, that got parenthesized because it is by readmoo. Now, going along this route, the DPT-RP1 world also included the Fujitsu Quaderno Gen 1, which had that stupid pen with the single tip and the little thing at the back and the little prop open thing that you had to plug in with a cable, a USB cable. All that's gone away on here. And this is all Wacom. Everyone that's adopting this gen, Alteric Note, ooh, you know what? Dasung bridges the gap, because they do have USB-C. If I get the A4 Dasung, they do have USB-C. But they use a stupid pen. They do use this pen. They don't use the actual Wacom pen, which is really weird. Is this device released almost 1 year ago? No, this is brand new. This is the readmoo Pro 13.3 with a card at 1250 screen. This one is a brand new unit. The RP1 is better because it has a Wacom layer. No, RP1 does not have... Oh, sorry. RP1 is better because it hasn't got a Wacom layer. Wacom layer reduces contrast. Not... to the someone who has it under a microscope, you are correct, but you're not going to see it with these side by side. I almost guarantee that. And I can tell you that because we did have the RP1 during our table discussion, and this, you can't tell. You can't tell. And that pen from the RP1 is trash. I hate that pen. Everyone hates that pen. The tip is good. It's like a piece of pencil lead. Something you can never emulate through Wacom, even with your felt composites. Something that comes close would be this. This is a Wacom white felt composite, and it is really crunchy. I like it, but it still doesn't give you that RP1 tip. The RP1 tip, if you blow it up, looks like that, and these ones just look like they're more kind of, I don't know, they kind of wobble. This one doesn't have a whole lot of wobble, so it, like, you know, shaves away really quick. So anyways, does the pen need power? No, that's the beauty of this. No more USB. It's all just Wacom. The Alteric Note and the Fujitsu, getting back to the question asked by Yating Zhou, Fujitsu Gen 2 and the Fujitsu Gen.3. Yes, what Fujitsu's going to do is take this and put on the color array filter, which we already reviewed with our bare hands at the trade show, and they're going to release the Gen 3. Now, there is something else we need to talk about. Delays. Every single person is delayed right now. Viva said it was going to release in June. Well, it's the end of June, and we haven't heard from the Viva. We have the Onyx Books Tab Ultra C. Massive setbacks. InkPad Color 2. Just landed. Supposed to land a while ago. Moo Ink by these guys, readmoo. They haven't released their Kaleido 3 yet. Moby Scribe out of the USA. They haven't released the Wave yet. It's not available for actual landed purchase yet. Everyone is delayed right now. And we kind of feel it has something to do with the big boys, because if you guys know, as we have said numerous times, there is a collective group. It's not an oligopoly. They don't really work together. They're vastly different, in fact. Kobo Rakuten, and of course the big boys, Amazon. These guys hold the market share of basically every. These are the big three. These are the big three, and then everyone else is in here. Everyone, and that's Onyx, that's MeBook, that's Big Me, that's Dasung, that's Fujitsu, that's Sony. Geez, guys, I can't even name them all. That's HiRead. That's Hisense, you know what I mean? They're all in there. These are the big three. You can't argue with that. They are. This graph might not be to scale, but you know what I mean. It's more like Amazon rules everything. But anyways, when Amazon says to e-ink, because remember, every single panel in the entire world, every single panel comes from one company. Unless you have DES or RLCD or MIP for Garmin and stuff like that, memory and pixel. Aside from that, I'm just going to say 100% of e-paper, except for, you know, eMagatag, SES eMagatag, comes from e-ink. So when Amazon says, hey, e-ink, we need 1 million EPDs, e-ink's like, oh, snap. And then Onyx over here is like, oh excuse me. I need about 1,500. Oh, please. Well, e-ink says, just a sec, Onyx. Hold on. Number one, we're going to supply to Amazon first. If we got any left over, we'll give you. So what I'm kind of saying, and that's honestly true. That's if you had a company and you're like, all right, let's see the order sheets. 1 million panels. 1,500 panels. Okay. We gotta focus on this one first, because you do. Barnes & Noble, remember, is releasing their unit. Oh, man. Woo! You ever choke on nothing? Back to it. Whoa. I mean, like, sometimes when I have, like, mixed nuts and walnuts and stuff at my desk, I choke on a little after fragment. I didn't even have anything. Whoo! Anyways, so you got guys like Barnes & Noble developing their new unit. You got Kobo Rakuten potentially making some stuff. They just finished up with the Ellipsa launch too, which occupied a 10.3-inch Carta screen. You know what I mean? So when there's other players in the game that are requesting things from e-paper, e-ink, e-paper panels, e-ink's got to prioritize the big boys, and that's always how it's worked. It's always been that way, and it's how it's going to do moving forward. So honestly, that's why you see everyone delayed in the industry right now. Nicholas said, so it's good for other brands that Amazon isn't launching many big devices. That is correct. We saw, yeah, I know, Name Koman. Barnes & Noble, you're right. I'm sorry, not Barnes & Noble, Steve Donahue, you're right. Nicholas Pinotti, Amazon released the 10.3, which did upset a couple things around the 10.3-inch scope. But remember, everyone, when Amazon released the Scribe, it had a 10.2-inch panel. Everybody else does 10.3. Everybody. Not Amazon. That says something. Maybe they didn't want to disrupt anything. Maybe E-Ink was the good guys and says, you know what, let's make a 10.2 to not disrupt every single other person making 10.3s, because everyone makes a 10.3. If you go on AliExpress and type in 10.3 inch e-paper, you will find, so I'm going to not even exaggerate, you'll find 15 to 20 manufacturers that we don't even cover. Like the Little Ape, Alpha Egg, I don't even know what that is. It's been sitting every live. I keep talking about that unit. It's right there. I never even, yeah. So what is your tier of e-ink marketplace? You talking about like, oh, marketplace? Oh, Amazon's king. You can't fight that. Amazon is king. They'll always be king. They're king. They don't pay us. They don't sponsor us. They don't give us any money. They barely give us review units on time. Amazon's king. When is the e-ink patent going to expire? I don't know, because e-ink is the company that makes the e-paper technology, and they hold, well, 150,000% of that market, because it's the market. That's the only one. If you go anywhere in the world, again, if you guys are scrubbing through the video or kind of, hopping in and out, e-ink is the only company that makes e-paper ever, 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 ever. There will be some outliers, like we mentioned, DES from Weifeng, RLCD attempts, MIP for alternative e-paper technology, SES and Magatag has their own e-paper. I believe, like, what are they called? There's like some signage you'll see at Walmart and Walgreens and stuff like that. But in terms of devices, and like the Kindle, the Sony, the Hisense, the little sign thing at the Wacom booth when you go sign your name, everything's going to be e-ink. It'll all come from e-ink. So I don't know when the patent's going to expire, but yeah, there is no competition, and ever since e-ink started, there's been no competition. There's no competition. Anyone that says there's competition, it's for clickbait, because there's no competition. There isn't. It doesn't matter what you say. Garmin's tried MIP, doesn't matter. Hisense tried RLCD, doesn't matter. We had this reflective LCD where it lights from the back. You put it next to a window, and you see the colors, and it doesn't use much power. That's not e-paper. Doesn't matter. DES tried valiantly from Weifeng, distributed by Good Displays, to make the what was it? Top Joy. And the re-ink stone failed miserably, became a very negative connotation culture around the Weewood group of products. There's no one close. There's nobody close to e-ink. It's not no one even in the same universe. They are the universe. And we've seen some people kind of try to jump in there and try. I would say the biggest actual success of real e-paper is SES and Magatag, because they make their own e-paper, and they what do you call it? They have like contracts to sell hundreds of millions of little micro panels, like 1 or 2 inch panels, to all like the stores around the world. Everywhere you go, from Sweden to Japan to Canada. You can be in the boonies, you can be in Abbotsford, Canada, and you go to a superstore, and all the prices are going to be in e-ink. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. But yeah. Oh, so the readmoo Gen.3 will have a PPI bump from 207 to 240. No, this is the Gen.3, and it has 206 PPI. Yeah, that's weird. You know what? It goes back to this one, because as you see these categories of the releases from the DPT lines and the Linfini and, whoever has their hand in it, you get some hybrid amalgamations. For example, the Dazzling, as we mentioned, shares the old pen from DPT-RP1, and yet shares the body, chassis, and some of the specs from the DPT-RP2. Fujitsu shares some of the specs from the RP2, but has some certain things that make them outliers, like the Gen.3 Kaleido layer. And that even though they have the RP2 and the CP1, we didn't talk about the CP1. We'll do that really quick over here. For example, the CP1, which is part of the RP1, which is Gen 2, has no glow light, but the CP1, which is going to be the Gen 3 by Fujitsu, has a glow light. So it's crazy, guys. And you know what it comes down to? It does honestly come down to who has their hand in making it. And that's why you'll see that there is a difference. Let's go back to this here. There is a pretty big difference between the units that don't have influence from Sony and the ones that do. So you'll start to see how they're approaching things differently. And unfortunately, if you're just jumping in, no, this doesn't actually exist. The Sony branded RP2. You know what this is like? You know what this is like, guys? Honestly, this is like when Boyu closed up shop and went through Meebook, who went through Howking to make what Boyu used to make, the P10, P78, etc. But they don't do that anymore. Boyu took an administrative position in all of the office buildings in Shenzhen, China. Then they stepped out. Then Meebook and Howking are now releasing the P10, and they don't have Wacom rights anymore. You know what I mean? So there's so much going on, guys, and it's and that you're here means you're interested. Obviously, it's boring, and it's technical stuff. It's like, oh, technically, Sony Semiconductors had their hand. You know what I mean? It's very convoluted technical stuff. But I do appreciate you guys stopping by. We always appreciate you guys stopping by and having this genuine interest in this. But if you ever wondered why we needed a 31-minute explanation on how this is a Sony device, watch this live. Thank you guys so much. I hope we answered all the questions. Yating Zhou, who's that? Iero. Cool, yeah. Demos15, Simon Gordon, Steve Donahue, everyone sub to his channel. Name Koman, Nicholas Pinotti, LL. Simon Gordon said that. Alok Pradhan, Cisco Teres, Stephen Prosman, Nicholas Pinotti again, and my mom for stopping by. Thank you guys so much. We'll be here every single week. I noticed you guys didn't ask even one question about this unit's capabilities. That just kind of, I'm sorry, but that does kind of show you that it might not have been the best move to go with readmoo. It would have been a better move to go with someone at least a little bit of note. Maybe collab with Fujitsu. That would have been a crazy collab. Sony and Fujitsu, two mega conglomerates, going together to release that Fujitsu Quaderno Extravaganza. That would have been cool. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. We'll be here every single week. And I believe... Oh, J4V3L. What a nice lecture. Just lurking in the background with his little dictaphone and... what do you call those court things where you press? I don't know. Anyways, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.